So, well, I come from a collective named Straddle 3. We've been working about urban issues for the last 15 years, 14 years or so, from Barcelona. And today I will try to give you like a panorama of our practices, not only ours but also of the network we promoted years ago with several people. And I wanted to start with this extract from from David Copperfield, the novel. And it's a moment. Well, this novel was written in the 1848, or I think, 1849. So it's nearly 200 years old, and it's a moment that little David Crockett goes to a place where he's going to spend a couple of weeks, and he said, "Okay, the people who are bringing him, says we live there." And he says, "Okay, I can see, I will read a little bit. I looked in all directions as far as I could stare over the wilderness and away at the sea and away at the river, but no house could I make out. There was a black barge or some other kind of superannuated boat, not far off, high and dry on the ground, with an iron funnel stick sticking out of it for a chimney and smoking very cosily. But nothing else in the way of a habitation that it was visible to me." "That's not it," I said. "That sheep-looking thing, that's it, Master David," returned Ham. If it had been Aladdin's palace, roc's egg and all, I suppose I could not have been more charmed with the romantic idea of living in it. There was a delightful door cut on the side, etc., etc. One thing I liked very much is that when he says, "But the wonderful charm of it was that it was a real boat, which had no doubt been upon the water hundreds of times, and which had never been intended to be lived in on dry land." That was the captivation. That it has been ever been meant to be lived in. I might have thought it small or inconvenient or lonely, but never having been designed for such a use, it became a perfect abode. So this idea of informality, which is not, well, it's a subtle idea of what happens when you use what you have, what you can reach, what you have on the hand, and what happens when people creatively inhabit their cities in a way that is not supposed to. When people really act as creative inhabitants and do crazy things with buildings and streets and squares. We have been trying to work with this kind of people, and we also had some projects in Latin America, but just asked me to bring as a Spanish project, or at least European projects, because informality, which is not I don't know if it's proper informality, but it's some kind of a different way of producing city, is very interesting for us, and really learn a lot working with this kind of people, no? So people who find the void or the emptiness, the uncertainty of places, and act with passion and with a lot of will to transform it. So this brings us to the question of who is able to produce city, who is supposed to produce city, or to produce urban environment, or to produce environment at all. We on these years we experienced several different situations, and sometimes it's not only related to urban sports or urban art, but also with technologies, with free software, with free culture and things like this. And of course there is the informality within the squatted places and the occupied cultural centers and so on, and also a mixture with other practices like certain kinds of agriculture, and etc., etc. And finally, we are in this new paradigm, the network, no? And the network itself is informal, no? And this is where we started, and this is our website. So now I'm showing you some of our projects that deal with this kind of things and these kind of ideas. First of all, it was I know that in a certain moment it was Santiago Cirujeda who was coming, and he's a very close friend of us, and we started this network together years ago. And this is one of the highlights of the network. It was a moment when a gypsy temporary settlement was turned down, and we were offered to recover the containers. So it started like a kind of a program that anyone with a public interest project could apply for a container or recycled materials to do things. So we've been involved in 5 or 6 of these situations that finally this was like in the moment of the intention, and this is finally what happened. And very different situations, which I think were quite informal, were produced. And I will show you some of them. This, for example, was a kind of artistic and cultural kind of collective. That it was a hacker, an anthropologist, and an artist. So they wanted to settle like a kind of not a house, but it has to be inhabitable, and it was a place to do residences and so on. And it has to be done with only 35,000 euros, and of course a lot of recycled material and self-construction, self-building. And of course it was in the middle of the country, so it had to be the more autonomous as possible. So we did that with them, and we did that within the budget. And well, I'm showing you a little bit. I'm showing you many projects, so I'll be like a little bit fast with them. No professionals involved. Maybe the guy who brought the crane, but not many more. So we were living there part of the time where we were building, and finally the result was that. And of course, it's not about aesthetics, it's about what you can do, what you have on hand. And finally, this was like to celebrate the opening. We did one of our network venues. We do like every year we do like a meeting. So we had this meeting there, and people who came through the forest used to ask, "What is this? Are you doing a science fiction movie or something like that?" And with these people, with the same people, we prepared this game, which is a card game about modular architectures and autonomous projects of communities or collectives. So the idea is like a role game, and with the cards and so on, you have to settle like a coherent place. So you have many kind of cards about energy or materials or whatever. And this was kind of instrumental. We settled to play with these people that they were not professionals. They haven't studied architecture or had experience in the building world. But we have to build things together. And after that house, or that strange house, we were commissioned for a more normal house, but also made out of recycled materials. So the ingredients were like a container, material from a construction site that was finished, and they had like these kind of things. Pavilion that was demountable, portable pavilion for an electrical company. And wooden materials that we found about the sawmills that they just throw away or they just burn it, and we converted into panels and so on. So that was another experience. And this house was important for us because before that we've tried like 3 or 4 times, but within like low budget situations. And this time we had a little bit more budget and a program, and well, it was like finally you get the proper results in some ways. Well, so other situation was a guy who bought a house which was illegal and wanted an extension of that house. So we had to do it in kind of a specific way, because of the quality of the construction, we had to have the new part had to have their own support and everything, and also was made with self-construction. So the techniques had to be available for a person who is not a specialist in construction. So that's another, more or less the same adventure. And well, he was a little bit like a punk, and he had, you know, the crest, so we put the crest on the house also. It's like a parasite in some ways, no? And this, I love this project. This is my favorite one because it was very young people, about 13, 14, 15 years old. They wanted to have a skate park in their village, in their small city in Catalonia, and they asked us, because they said, okay, when the elections were on, we asked many political parties if they would build a skate park for us, and they said, okay, we will do it, but they were not. They thought that these teens, they said, they were not really into it. So we need you to help us with this kind of thing. So we looked for funding, and we got the municipality to hear the children and to prepare all together a project. And it was really, they really did know more or less what they wanted. So we got kind of a prize or help of some money from Madrid, and we did this kind of meetings with the politics, with the skaters, with the guys, and it was like the decision-making process. And this is a town hall of the place, so it was kind of an unusual official situation. Then the process of designing it. This guy on the left is a pro skater, and these are the promoters of the project and our customers. So we got a lot of materials also from recycling, and just started the construction. But it was also again with self-construction, and that was a little bit. This was more or less 60% self-construction and 40% by a specialist. But the specialists were more or less us. So, and well, that was an incredible adventure, because it was really like at the beginning, no one imagined that this could go so far. No, at the beginning they were understanding that it was going to be like wooden ramps and things like that. And at some point they said, okay, but we really would like to be in concrete. And we said, okay, but this is going to be a lot of work, a lot more work. And they said, okay, we're ready. We want to do it. Okay, so we do it. And that's it. Yeah, 5 minutes. Okay. So that's our crew. That's the pro. And that's more or less the result. And of course, this was not planned. It was just designed and made by the children. And now they're changing the plan to integrate the skate park into the plan, or the urbanistic plan. No, so it's funny the way the things go around. So, well. And now we're doing the next one. And so after that one, they asked to reproduce the same, more or less the same scheme in a bigger city, so we have more budget. And we're trying to document all the process, because it's really very funny how the decisions are made and everything, no? So we have also a site. I don't have time to show you the site, but if you want to put it, it's sk8sc.net, and there it is in Spanish, I'm sorry, but you will have like every part of the process, so it's kind of open source. I mean, it's a participatory project, and for us it's a must that we document it and we really say, okay, this is like this, but it's not our decision as designers, this is not a decision by the municipality, this is a decision of the community, and when the community in this case is very young people, these are more like 18, 19, these are like masters. So, and the other thing is that the idea started with the skate park, but you see, the skate park is this is like the 10th part of it, and finally we got the commitment to design all the park, not only the skate park. Well, we have many experiences like this kind of do what you can, what you have available, and this is, for example, in Extremadura. And a very other young collective asked us to prepare like kind of a outside bar in a place they're recovering with very little resources. So we got this deposit and changed it into the bar of the place. It's a very simple project. Or other one that was like kind of a workshop in Catalonia. Like that was when the Indignados thing of the political movement that took the squares in Spain. So the idea was to prepare equipment for this kind of occupy the squares movement. So they already had like covers or canvas and things like that, but they didn't have a kitchen, or they didn't have a kitchen garden, or they didn't have a media tank. So we prepared this kind of things out of scrap, to be able to live on the streets and for a while. And we did. And now, well, I'm finishing, and that's our last project. This is a project so new that we started it just 2 weeks ago, and it's going to be in English for the first time, and it's going to be European for the first time. So the idea is to prepare a platform, an online platform, which is an interactive site, a little bit like a wiki, about practices in the public space, and specifically on the legal issues, because many times we have problems with legal conditions, and so the idea is to co-empower the people, the users, by sharing resources about laws, about procedures, about good practices, good cases, case studies, and also the dark side of it, like a place that you can report any abuse or whatever that is regarding public space. So I hope we will meet here also. And that's it.